Good evening, it's time for the news on Times Television, TTV, and you're with me, Ronald Impaso. First, the headlines. President Lazarus Chakwera has terminated the contract of Attorney General Chikosa Silungwe just a year into his 3-year term. Public Accounts Committee summons Eskom and Ejenco over the award of a 3.2 billion kwacha contract to businessman Zamiri Karim. And Vice President Saulos Chilima says the Nsanje Port project is not completely abandoned. And sheriffs have compounded the computers and other property at Eskom Mzuzu office. We have these and other stories. Stay with us. In our first item, President Lazarus Chakwera has terminated the contract of Attorney General Chikosa Silungwe just a year into his 3-year term. State House Press Secretary Brian Banda has confirmed the development but could not disclose the reasons why the president has decided to offload Silungwe. More in this report.
Presidential spokesperson Brian Banda said President Lazarus Chakwera has communicated direct to the former Attorney General on the reasons for the termination of his contract. Silungwe's firing comes barely 3 months after the Office of the President and Cabinet launched investigations into why memos from his office to the President were leaking to the public. Section 98, subsection 6 of the Constitution of Malawi states that the Attorney General shall be subject to removal by the President on grounds of incompetence, incapacity, or being compromised in the exercise of his duties to the extent that his ability to give impartial legal advice is seriously in question. Some of the memos from the AG's office that were leaked to the public included his opinion on the status of 2 former Malawi Electoral Commission commissioners, Linda Kunje and Jean Matanga, the composition of the commission, as well as civil servants' interdiction without pay. Silungwe, who was UTM's lead counsel in the 2019 presidential elections case, was appointed Attorney General by Chakwera on July 8 last year.
Vice President Saulos Chilima says the Nsanje Port project is not completely abandoned and that discussions are still underway regarding the matter. Chilima, however, said the focus for now is on the construction of railway lines. The Vice President said this when he inspected various projects in Nsanje district, such as the Nsanje Inland Port, Nsanje Station, Bangula Railway Station, and the East Bank Road. Yamika Nikachaje has the details.
The Vice President said although his administration is prioritizing the construction of railway systems, that does not mean that the Inland Port project has been left behind. He said that closure is needed to determine how best to go about handling the waterway project. Chilima said the country should continue waiting for the final decisions to be made on the stalled project.
I think there is still discussions ongoing. It hasn't been abandoned. I would rather say that let's wait. I think when a decision has been taken, everyone will be notified. The good news though is that they have decided to use the infrastructure for rail, which is a plus. Then it's not going to be idle because money was already invested in there. And therefore, because the rail is moving at a much faster pace than the actual project there, let's use the rail and use the infrastructure that is existing, plus whatever will come up as new infrastructure, housing, warehouses, offices, etc. We can leverage the fact that we already have a solid structure that is in place and we can use the same.
Nsanje District Commissioner Medson Machaya said people in the district want government to implement campaign projects.
The same transport issue, the road to Maka, which currently the complaint that people gave was they haven't seen any single progress as expected by the promises they were given. They are trying their best. There have been a number of issues that have affected the progress as outlined by the people, but still on the side of the need is there because that's the M1 road connecting us to even as far as beyond Maka to Mozambique as well. So we have services to provide like hospitals as well, schools, agricultural services, all that we can mention of. So such needs, trade as well, such needs actually have been affected by the road.
The Southern African Development Community, through the African Development Bank, in 2011, pumped in $3.5 million, about 2.5 billion kwacha, into the comprehensive feasibility study on the Shire-Zambezi waterway project. It was initially projected to cut Malawi's transportation of goods costs to and from the Indian Ocean ports by 40%.
The government could be losing up to 4 billion kwacha during the tax-free week, projections by the Malawi Revenue Authority show. Presenting the 2021-2022 national budget, Finance Minister Felix Mlusu said the duty-free week would boost growth of small-scale businesses. But economist James Kamachale Komba says government could be losing a lot more, much more than MRA's projections. Feston Malekezo has a report.
Mlusu said the government is introducing a duty-free week for imports not exceeding $3,000, which is roughly about 2.4 million kwacha. Speaking in Mzuzu on Tuesday on the sidelines of a media training, MRA Head of Corporate Affairs Stephen Kabuloma said they are ready for the week, adding they have set up a committee to look at the modalities of the week. Kabuloma adds that the team is also strategizing to find out which border would have more traffic than the other.
We expect maybe 3-4 billion that will be lost through the duty-free exercise. But as I presented that as a country, we are collecting more to do with domestic taxes. We are collecting more taxes within the country than taxes that are coming outside the country. So the objective of government is to make sure that we spur the business environment. We provide a conducive environment to the business so that they're able to bring in goods. When they're able to bring in goods duty-free like this, then they will be able to gain profit.
But economist James Kamachale Kombe first doubts the projections of the losses, describing them as little. Kombe fears that the duty-free week is subject to abuse, cautioning authorities to put strict mechanisms to counter any abuse. The initiative, to be done once a year, demands that one needs to have a taxpayer identification number and a person can only benefit once a week. The days for the duty-free week will be gazetted within the fiscal year for taxpayers to prepare and benefit from it.
The government says hospital decentralization of both operational and strategic management is making good progress. Minister of Health spokesperson Adrian Chikumbe says the hospital independence will help the facilities to respond quickly to their service delivery needs. Eric Msikiti has more in this report read by Tembeka Kumalo.
It's been years since the Central Hospital Reform Agenda was announced in Malawi. The reforms will see boards being appointed to run Kamuzu Central Hospital in Lilongwe, Mzuzu Central Hospital, Zomba and Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital in Blantyre as independent entities. The expectations that managers and their boards will be able to plan and deliver unrestricted by central government. It's been a long wait, but Chikumbe says Cabinet already granted the authority to all central hospitals to become self-directed. The German government has worked together with Malawi government towards the reforms in central hospitals since 2015. Temba Muhango is one of the technical experts and says the project will enhance efficiency in central hospitals.
We've assisted Central Hospital to come up with a new governing organization structure, which will include the board of trustees. So the Minister of Health, through the Department of HMD, they have done some functional review regarding that organization structure. So means new positions have been created to fill the new organization structure. The hospital staff will now be reporting to some kind of like a new employer, and therefore there's need to have new terms of condition of service. So with that, we've developed some new human resource procedures we're trying to manage the transition period from the current status to the status when they'll be fully autonomized.
There have been fears that reforms could result into facilities being run as private entities if the board sees fit, but officials have dismissed the fears.
Sheriffs have impounded computers and other property at Eskom's Mzuzu office, a development that has disrupted service at the Northern Region Headquarters office. It is alleged that Eskom failed to honor a court ruling on compensation of former employee Chikondi Sambalopa, who was attacked by robbers while on duty. The court ruled in favor of Sambalopa to be given 200,000 kwacha, which Eskom did not pay. Sam Kalimira has the story.
Eskom Public Relations Manager Innocent Chitosi confirmed the development, saying Sambalopa, who was power linesman, was attacked in September last year when he was waiting for an Eskom vehicle where they were going for field work in Rumpi district. However, Chitosi said Eskom did not fail to compensate the victim, but only that their insurance company took time to process the compensation.
We are not ashamed, but we regret the situation. As I said, we are not ashamed because it is not a matter of us failing to pay our member of staff. Because, as I said, there was miscommunication. The issue was referred to our insurers, and then the insurers, I think, it did not get some documentation or some files. So in the process, the affected person went to a court of law. It's not like Eskom is failing to pay the 20,000 that you are talking about.
Chitosi blamed Sambalopa for rushing to court when he could wait for the outcome of the compensation process. Social commentator Peter Mumba said it is sad that Eskom services were affected for the better part of Wednesday because the company failed to settle the 200,000 kwacha bill. According to the court ruling, Sambalopa dragged Eskom to court, but the company did not show up, hence a default judgment was entered. Times visit at the Eskom offices found some customers outside the premises, equally caught unawares of the closure. Other services that are affected were application of new connections, buying units, and revenue collection in general.
Muslims in the country have been urged to have a giving spirit, which is the will of God, to share with those in need. The Muslims held Eid al-Adha commemoration, which was marked by, among other things, slaughtering livestock and sharing the meat. More in this report.
The day is commemorated for Prophet Ibrahim's devotion to Allah as his readiness to sacrifice his son Ismail. In Lilongwe, Muslims held prayers in the area before holding another prayers at midday. Imam at Faizani Mosque in Mchesi in Lilongwe, Sheikh Imlani Jambo, says mainly the day is commemorated by holding prayers and slaughtering livestock.
It is a way which our Prophet Ibrahim والسلام, did when he promised his Lord to sacrifice his son when he get his son. So because of that, each and every Muslim used to sacrifice the animal instead of sacrificing his son or her son.
Eid al-Adha, or the Feast of the Sacrifice, signifies the willingness of the Prophet Ibrahim to sacrifice his son as ordered by Allah. Millions of Muslims worldwide celebrate the day.
You're watching the news on Times Television, TTV, and we take a break now. We'll be back shortly.
If there's one thing that all soaps do, it's wash. From buckets to basins, bathrooms to streams, and everything in between.
All soaps wash.
Yes, but Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex!
Good health starts here.
Like every mom, you want the best for your child.
Happy birthday.
You feed her mind and nurture her body. And you understand there are times you have to let her pick herself up when she falls. You make sure she knows the joy of sharing happy moments with family. And when everything comes together, you above all others will share the taste of success with her. Blue Band tastes like mama's love.
Hi, little one. What seems to be the matter? I know just what you need. Me! I'm Classic Milk, your instant milk powder. Perfect for breakfast, tea time, or evening time. Whether you're working hard in the office or just relaxing at home. And I'm suitable for tea, coffee, or an instant milk drink for kids just like you. Yes! That's exactly how I make you feel.
Classic instant milk from Rab Processors. Full cream milk powder for the whole family.
Welcome back. Tourism Minister Michael Usi has advised local artists to take advantage of the Southern Africa.
The department needs to make sure that, for example, arts, we are going to display our arts, and all that. So we will take advantage of the people that will come from outside because we are selling Malawi, and the others are just tears. Lake Malawi will have to be sold. So this is a good opportunity for us to market Malawi.
One of the event's organizers, Shamira Arias, described the interactive meeting as fruitful, saying it will help them to come up with good ideas when planning events.
Workshops like these are very useful at the moment. I think it's time for us to put together our heads, hibernate, and start to collaborate together as event managers for next year's events and festivals. So I'm hoping that we will come up with a 2022 plan and be a part of it on that particular calendar.
Malawi will host the SADC Heads of State Summit, which is expected to take place in August this year.
More people in Lilongwe are now adhering to COVID-19 prevention measures, according to Times findings. Times spot checks in the central business district of the capital city today found out that roughly 7 out of 10 people were wearing face masks. Blessings Mpinganjira has a report.
This comes a few days after the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 dispersed 80 million kwacha to the Malawi Police Service for enforcement of COVID-19 preventive measures. Most people were seen with face masks at their business spots. Chikumbutso Nsumati, a mobile money transfer agent, says apart from observing the law, he wears a mask because he has noted an increase in COVID-19 related deaths.
I am wearing a mask because there's a pandemic called COVID-19 that is spread from one person to another.
Within 24 hours on Tuesday, Malawi had registered 867 new cases with 11 deaths. On Tuesday, police arrested 269 people for defying COVID-19 rules and regulations across the country. Police National Spokesperson James Kadadzera said the police will continue enforcing Operation Vala Mask to ensure that Malawians are adhering to the rules and regulations.
Malawi Liverpool Welcome Program has donated 100 oxygen cylinders and 100 flow meters to Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital in Blantyre in a bid to supplement oxygen provision. The funds for the items were raised through a campaign called Bump It Forward. Thomas Kachere has more in this report.
Malawi Liverpool Welcome Program Acting Director Henry Mandumba said the items will enable the facility to serve patients with efficiency. He added that the gesture came as part of their relationship with the hospital, which has lasted for years.
We have donated the oxygen cylinders and the flow meters at a time when the Malawi people, but also the hospital in particular, needs help from not only ourselves, but from the rest of the population. COVID is a big problem in Malawi, as we know, and a lot of patients are being admitted to Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital.
However, Hospital Director Samson Mdoro thanked Malawi Liverpool Welcome Program for the donation. He then urged the people to go for vaccination, adding 90% of people admitted at the hospital were those who were not vaccinated. He, however, said the cylinders are crucial not only for COVID-19 patients.
I don't have all the statistics, but from our observation, probably 90% or so of the patients that were admitting, people who did not have a COVID vaccine, and a small fraction of people who only had one dose. So far, I don't remember anyone who had both doses being admitted. So, as you can see, not being vaccinated is coming out, as we expected, as a big risk factor for severe disease and admission and probably death.
Recently, MLW also donated PPEs to 3 hospitals: Queen Elizabeth Central, Zomba Central, Chikwawa District, and Blantyre District Health Office, with £1.2 million.
Residents of Limbi in Blantyre should brace for water challenges after fire burned an Incama panel which receives electric power to pump water to the area. The cause of the fire is not yet known, but the equipment that has been damaged is valued at 65 million kwacha. Blantyre Water Board Chairperson George Nessa explains more to Isaac Salima.
Yeah, what has happened that last night there was a fire in the inlet equipment, and this is the equipment that receives power from ESCOM. Yeah, this plant is quite important that the water that comes from here, from Moody, is supplied to Mpingwi, supplied to Kanjeza, Chigumula, Manja. So those areas will be affected temporarily. At the moment, they're still receiving water because there was water in the tanks. However, the staffs are working very hard to make sure that we can revive one pump using the generator, so that there are 2 pumps here, but if one pump is working, we'll be able to pump water and supply to those areas.
Blantyre Water Board Acting Chief Executive Officer Mavuto Chipantenga says the problem might take about 3 months to fix.
Being an emergency, what we are doing currently is to find the solutions. Of course, we're brainstorming to see what can be done. Of course, currently we have, of course, a standby generator, but unfortunately, of course, even that standby generator has been also been cut off because for that standby generator to operate this pumping equipment here, it also needs some cables, which have also been bent. So currently, of course, our team is trying to source some cables and do some connection so that at least maybe that generator should be started, so that at least maybe we can start operating probably, of course, at 50%, not be at 100%, but at 50% because the size of the pumps here. Normally, of course, we are only able to run one pump, which is 50% of our full operating capacity.
Blantyre Water Board Acting Chief Executive Officer Martin Chipantenga. That's the news for now, but before we go, the headlines again. President Lazarus Chakwera has terminated the contract of Attorney General Chikosa Silungwe just a year into his 3-year term. Vice President Saulos Chirima says the Nsanje Port project is not completely abandoned, and sheriffs have impounded computers and other items at ESCOM office in Mzuzu. Remember, you can get more on these and other stories by visiting our website www.times.mw, liking our Facebook page Times 360 Malawi, and following us on Twitter at Times 360 Malawi. Remember to wash your hands regularly, observe social and physical distance, and mask up. Stay safe. Have a lovely night. You've been with me, Ronald Mpaso.